Hello everybody, this is section 3.1, average monthly expenditures. So our essential question is, how do I calculate the average monthly expenditure? So here's a little bit of vocabulary for you. I'll give you a second to just write it down as I kind of talk through what each of these mean. So record keeping is just a way to manage your money. So accountants, a lot of them keep records of all the expenses, of all the money they've made, all that other stuff from years and years and years. That's part of their record keeping. Now, they keep track of expenditures, which is anything you spend money on. Now, mostly when you're talking expenditures, you're talking about businesses when you would hear that word. We, if we're talking about ourselves, are probably going to use the word expenses. And a way to keep track of your expenses is a budget sheet. Me and my wife have one. We put it on Google Sheets. And it's a nice way for us to just kind of keep track of where our money's going every month and figuring out ways we can kind of save money from month to month, or maybe, set some more money aside if we've got a big expense coming up. Then finally, the last vocabulary word is living expenses. And this is just anything you spend money on that is not optional. So food is non-optional. If you don't eat food, you're going to die. And then, you don't need a budget. Rent, you've got to have a place to live. Electricity, water, gas, all of those things that you absolutely have to keep living. Now, to calculate these things, we've got to use a little formula. And there's nothing too crazy about this formula. Really, once you see the formula, you're like, that makes total sense. But to find your average monthly, you take the sum of your monthly expenses. Don't forget, sum means add. And then we're going to divide by the number of months. So here we go. Now on these first couple that we're going to look at, they require us to do a little bit of algebra to figure out the missing month. So it says Rudy Timmons has a $287.80 average monthly expenditure. So that's this one. So I'm going to go $287.80 equals. And it's going to be the sum of his monthly expenses. So $312.56 plus $235.40 plus, June. We don't know what his June is. Maybe I should use a different color here. It says, how much does he need to spend in June to keep this $287.80? I don't know. I feel like using J for June. Now what we're looking at is our bottom number. So we did the sum of each of his months, $312.56, $235.40, and June. Now we need to figure out the number of months we're talking about. Well, April, 1, May, 2, June, 3. And now we do some algebra to work our way backwards to figure out how much June is. So I multiply both sides by 3. I went ahead and typed that into my calculator. I got 863.40. And then I also went ahead and did this next step and added these together. And again, I should probably be using a different color. So let's do green. So I added these together. And I got 547.96 plus J, because you can't add numbers and variables. So I'm going to subtract 547.96 96 from both sides. Cancels, and I'm just left with J. Well, I typed it in my calculator, and I got $315.44 is J. So he can spend $315.44 and still have that $287.80 average. So that's kind of complicated there. If we wanted to do something a little different, say, look at a budget sheet and find something out, let's do that. So we're going to skip number 2. Same thing, you can look at it and solve it if you want. Just in case you decide to solve that one, I will go ahead and tell you what it equals. So it says your average monthly expenditure is $167. And you want to know how much you can spend in July and still get that average. I won't do the work, but you can spend $183. So check that out. Make sure you did it correctly. 183. All right. So nothing too crazy there. So let's look at this. Now, it wants to know what is your average monthly electric bill. Now, this one's a little bit nicer because we don't have to do any math here. And basically what we're doing is we're just saying, how much did you spend each month? And how many months did you do it for? So for electric, right here, first month, $121.47. Let's say A for average. Remember, it's the sum of your expenses divided by the number of months. Well, we're talking about 1, 2, 3 months. So we add it together and divide by 3. And it looks like they spend $133.64. Remember, round up to the first decimal spot. So your average monthly expense for electric is $133.64. Next, we can look at the monthly credit card bill. And I won't do all of these, but we'll look at a couple of them. Your monthly electric was $133.64, and now we want to do the credit card bill. So I find credit card bill on each month. And we're going to add those together. So the average is your sum of your monthly expenses divided by the number of months. Put this into your calculator. And I got 197.22. So they spend almost $200 a month. So that's really kind of the process. Now, something to keep in mind is if you have more than 3 months, we kept looking at 3 months, you got to make sure you divide by the correct one. So on some of your homework problems, they give you 5 months. And that kind of gives us an idea of how to find the average. Since there's 5 months, we divide by 5. If there was 3 months, we'd divide by 3. 2 months, divide by 2. You get the idea. So that's how we calculate our average monthly expenditures. Get on Google Classroom, do the Google form, turn it in, so we can move on to the next section.